Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the East Riding of Yorkshire series. Together with the unparished city of Hull, it forms the county of the same name. There's 172 parishes here. Which one are we in today? Welcome back to the East Riding of Yorkshire again, everybody. Sun's up today, it's looking quite nice, blue sky, perfect weather for a game of cricket. And cricket is one thing you can definitely play here in this place. I'm standing in front of its cricket pitch. Welcome to the parish of Humbleton. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Alright folks, between now and Christmas I'm hitting the Holderness Coast hard. By the time I'm finished there won't be much of it left. Kicking things off in this run we have the village of Humbleton, which is located 9 miles away from the city of Hull and 12 miles south of Hornsea. Its parish boundaries also contain the hamlet of Flinton. Humbleton is a long straight village with very few landmarks. At one end of its main street is the local cricket club, whilst at the other is the church. Between the two is a collection of houses, some new and some old, and a few with a storied past. There's been some form of settlement in Humbleton for over 900 years, and it was mentioned in the Domesday Book as Humeltone. The village is surrounded by rich agricultural land, and there are 5 farms all bearing the village name. This village was the birthplace of Admiral John Storr in 1709, who served during the 7 Years' War and reached the rank of Rear Admiral of the Red. The village is also semi-famous thanks to the American TV show The Simpsons, who used the village's name in a 2005 episode called Home Away from Homer, in which Ned Flanders moves to Humbleton, Pennsylvania, allegedly famous for humble porcelain figurines. So then, let's see if we can spot any Barts, Lisas, Maggies, Homers or Marges in this quiet corner of the East Riding of Yorkshire. I don't think we will though. Our walk begins at the southern end of the village at the local playing field, which accommodates a thriving village cricket club. It has 2 men's teams and 2 junior teams, and it's part of the Humbleton Recreation Club, which was founded in 1946. The club also has a football team and a ladies' hockey team, and a ground which is highly respected throughout the area. The club is at one end of Humbleton's only main street. This is Danthorpe Road, which runs from north to south. The village is wholly residential, barring the church at the far northern end. Some houses, though, used to be other things. There was once the Herons Endowed School, which served many local villages until it closed in 1960. It's now this block of houses. The building dates back to the early 1800s, and although it was partially rebuilt in 1905, it still resembles the original design. Beyond that, you're into the main residential row. Humbleton Village has less than 150 residents, primarily all living on this one street. As property goes, there are some brand new ones out here, but Humbleton has never been a magnet for the bigger housing developers. You're more likely to see converted buildings like Humbleton's former Primitive Methodist Chapel, which was built in 1860. As you reach the centre of the village, the road widens, and on the right is a big open green space with a post box and a phone box. So I guess you'd term this the centre of the village. It's the sort of midway point of this long street that runs all the way up to the church. There is a green here, although I think it's less of a green and more really just an extension of these gardens more than anything else. It does have its own little car park here as well. Got the phone box, which has got a defib machine. Behind this I can see a parish notice board, so I'm going to leave a card there as we continue our march up to the church. Whilst Humbleton can't say it's had a lot of famous residents, it can at least lay claim to being the birthplace of a national hero, Rear Admiral John Storr. Storr was born here in 1709 and was the son of Joseph Storr. He became an officer in the Royal Navy and served during the 7 Years' War, reaching the rank of Rear Admiral of the Red, at the time the Navy's 7th highest rank. In his time he commanded HMS Gloucester and HMS Revenge, the latter of which took part in the Battle of Cartagena in 1758 off the Spanish coast. He also participated in the Battle of Quiberon Bay in 1759, still in command of HMS Revenge. He was then part of the Red Squadron under the command of this man, Edward Hawke. Storr was appointed Rear Admiral of the White in 1779 and Rear Admiral of the Red in 1780. He died in 1783 and was buried at Westminster Abbey, where today you'll find a marble tablet and a bust within the chapel of St John the Evangelist. Once past the phone box, the green becomes wider still, and there's some nice trees with a bench or two to sit on. The houses here are called town end villas, which seems a bit odd considering Humbleton has never been a town. Moving on, here's an interesting old house. This might look derelict and a bit spooky, but I have a suspicion that someone still lives here. Directly opposite is the former village post office, which still has its old postbox in the wall, a George VI wall box no less. Not much further, you find yourself at a junction with New Lane, which runs to the west towards Lely, Sproatley and Hull. There's a bus shelter on this lane, but there's no bus service in these parts. A car is most definitely required to live here. Back to Danthorpe Road, next is a White Row. The end house is a former joiner's shop, one of the now lost village trades. We've now left the road and we're on a track which leads to the church. The house in your shot right now is the old rectory. Then we pass over a stream. This is Humbleton Beck, which mostly runs parallel to the main street before turning eastwards. This northern end of the village is the most sparsely populated area. The scenery, though, is pure East Yorkshire utopia. Okay, so we've reached the church, which stands all on its lonesome right in the north of the village. Here it is. The clock is currently displaying the wrong time. It says it's 20 past 12. It's not. It's 20 past 1. So they've obviously not put the clocks forward last time that we went through. There we go. The door's open as well, so we should be able to get inside this one. So here we go. Here's Humbleton's church for you. St Peter's Church dates mainly to the 13th century, although it does have some further modifications and restorations from the 15th. The tower, which stands at a height of 65 feet, is said by many to be the best proportioned of any in Holderness. It has 3 bells which date from 1594, but they no longer ring. This ceased in 1935 as the bell rollers became in need of extensive repairs. The church is open during daylight hours, but be aware you do need to be a bit careful when you enter, thanks to this low door. Now inside we can see the brand new oak pews and the pulpit, which were both installed at the turn of the 21st century. Humbleton's war memorial is on the wall. The clock on the tower outside is also a war memorial, and it was installed in 1920. We're now in the light and airy chancel, a chamber which felt quite roomy. There's several wall tablets in here, so let's have a read. So there's a couple of wall tablets here in the chancel. This one here is for Benjamin Metcalfe, which is dated 1800, and there's one underneath which is to his wife Sarah, who actually predeceased him, 1791, only the age of 45. So didn't live long back in those days, did they? Opposite that, you've got another one on the wall here. I can't read this one because it's a little bit faded, a bit too faded for me. But underneath is one that I think is important. This is for Jonathan Dixon, the vicar of Humbleton, who died in 1831, and also for Jane, the daughter of Robert Raines of Flinton. Now, Flinton is also a place within Humbleton's boundaries. We're going to be going out there towards the end of this video. First of all, though, before we do that, I've got to walk back to the car, and of course, from the church, I've got to get out of here. I'm going to take you through that low door and show you exactly how low that door really is, because trust me, you do need to be a little bit of a leprechaun to get through it. So here we go. Come with me out of the church. Push the door. There is the door. And you can see how low it is. I'm currently holding the camera level with my head. So if I walk straight forward for the middle, I will hit my head here. I can get the camera through because it's just about wide enough for that. But as you can see, if I try to go through like this, I will hit my head. So yeah, you do need to duck when you come into this church. So yeah, we're going to head back now to the car, back through the village. There's not really anything much more to film because I filmed it all on the way coming up here. We're going to hop in the car and head through Flinton to finish. To finish with, we're driving through the hamlet of Flinton, which sits to the north of Humbleton on the B1238, the only main road that runs through the entire parish. Flinton is much smaller than Humbleton and consists only of a handful of farms, farm buildings and scattered houses. There's around 20 properties in total. There was once a beer house here too, last mentioned in records in the 18th century, although its name seems to now have been lost. Speaking of names, the name Flinton is a reference to flint stones, which were often found out here. And no, I'm not talking about Fred or Wilma, I mean actual flint stones. Flinton was its own separate parish at one time, but was combined with Humbleton in 1935 to give us the boundaries we have today. And I do hope you've enjoyed our trip around this parish. It's time for us now to move on to the next one. If you think this one was sparsely populated, you haven't seen anything yet. I'll see you next week for Humbleton's neighbour. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.